Hello listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of the Conspiracy Vault. I'm your speaker Casey, and this week we have something a little different. I am going to be looking into another celebrity, but this case comes with the backstory of the brutal and tragic murder of the young girl who captured a nation's heart. Her name? JonBenet Ramsey. There is a conspiracy theory that little JonBenet never actually died, that she was groomed by the Illuminati to become a world-famous superstar, the successful singer that we know today as Katy Perry. So first of all, let's talk about JonBenet. This first part of the episode does come with trigger warnings of child murder, so please listen with discretion. We are starting in Boulder, Colorado, an unfortunate place for infamous crimes that changed America. These include the Columbine mass school shooting and the Aurora Theatre mass shooting. It also includes the tragic murder of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey. A lot of this information came from the ABC News YouTube channel and their 6-part series on the JonBenet case. JonBenet, named after her father John Ramsey, grew up with her family. Dad, Mum Patsy, an older brother of 2 years, Burke. Dad John owned a successful computer business and was winning Entrepreneur of the Year awards. Mum Patsy had just overcome ovarian cancer and recently celebrated her 40th birthday. Patsy was described as the perfect hostess, always having parties and being involved in the pageant scene. When her daughter JonBenet turned 4, she also became involved in the pageant scene. The beautiful blonde-haired JonBenet spent 2 years competing in beauty pageants until Christmas 1996. The wealthy family with their big home were known to do big Christmases, with Patsy decorating the house and placing a Christmas tree in every room. On Christmas Eve of 1996, the family were attending a party at a friend's house and arrived home after dark. On Christmas morning, the house was quiet and no one was awake yet. Patsy, who woke first, decided to make her way downstairs and get the house ready for Christmas morning. When approaching the stairs, Patsy noticed 3 pieces of paper laid over the stairway rungs. Curiously, she collected the pieces of paper and realised that they were written on. Patsy began reading the notes and quickly realised that they were ransom notes that included things like a demanding of $118,000 for the safe return of her daughter, JonBenet, who by this point had been kidnapped. The notes seemed to include things that suggested the writer knew the family. This included the amount being demanded being close to the exact amount that John Ramsey, the father, had received for his bonus that year. The ransom note was 2.5 pages long, written on a pad from inside the house. This suggested the author had access, time and knowledge of the family. Panicked, Patsy ran straight up to JonBenet's bedroom and was grief-stricken to find her daughter's bedroom empty with no sign of the 6-year-old JonBenet. It was at this point that Patsy screamed for her husband John. Soon after, John and Patsy made a call to 911, as well as a host of family and friends, explaining to all of them that JonBenet had been kidnapped and that everyone should come over immediately. The house was soon buzzing with people, friends, family and law enforcement, in the kitchen, the living room, passing the ransom note around, walking through a potential crime scene and tarnishing valuable evidence. It seems at this point that law enforcement didn't do anything, or at least not enough, to secure the scene. The note specified that the hostage takers would be calling the house between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. with instructions on what the family should do next. The family were briefed on how the call could go, and with monitoring equipment all set up, they waited patiently with law enforcement for the call. By 9:45 p.m, there was still no phone call, and it was at this point that most of the friends and family had left and gone back to their own houses, leaving only the lead detective at the home waiting for the call. She told an anxious and pacing John Ramsey to perhaps check the house. Start from the top, she said, and work your way down. Make notes of anything that seemed missing, out of place, or strange. John then took his friend and they started not at the top but at the bottom of the home. They started with the basement. As John opens the door, he sees a form on the floor, covered by a white blanket. He knew immediately that this was his daughter, JonBenet. Her hands were tied above her head. She had tape over her mouth. Immediately, John removed the tape, carries her upstairs, bursts into the upstairs and picks up another blanket, laying it over JonBenet, again tainting possible evidence and the crime scene. though potentially a natural reaction to the horrific events taking place. It appeared as though JonBenet had been strangled by a cord that had been tightened around her neck using the handle of a paintbrush from Patsy's hobby kit. This type of weapon is called a garrote and is particularly egregious and sadistic in its method of strangulation. It appears JonBenet had also been struck on the head with a heavy weapon, causing an 8-inch injury, and there were signs of sexual assault. She also had burn marks on her skin that could be explained by a stun gun. At the sight of her daughter's body, Patsy collapsed on top of JonBenet, cradling her close. The entire time the missing persons and hostage operation was being thrust into action, JonBenet had been in the house. The media burst into a frenzy, immediately posting JonBenet's photos all over the world. Her face dominated newspapers, magazines, and news stations for months. Her entire pageant repertoire was put on the global stage for all to become intimately familiar with. Soon, most people in America could tell you who this little girl was. Many suspected the family of being involved in the death of their daughter. Though never formally questioned by the police, the parents were adamant about their innocence, demanding that the police look elsewhere for suspects. There were in fact 38 registered sex offenders within a 2-mile radius of the family home, but all suspects were quickly eliminated and the case eventually went cold. This is despite Patsy's notepad and paintbrush being directly involved with the murder, as well as red and black fibres from Patsy's sweater worn the night before found on the duct tape from JonBenet's mouth, and the fact that John phoned his pilot the next day to fly the family to Atlanta. The parents were never pursued. The family immediately lawyered up, and people speculate that it's strange there was no sign of a break-in, as well as JonBenet being in the house the entire time. Why didn't they check every room before calling law enforcement and friends and family? JonBenet's 9-year-old brother was also seen by a child psychologist, but cleared of all potential involvement. Despite there being DNA collected from the scene, the case to this day remains unsolved. Now we move on to Katy Perry and a little look into her history. Biography.com tells us a little bit about her early life and upbringing. It says, Katy Perry was born Catherine Elizabeth Hudson and was born on October 25th, 1984 in Santa Barbara, California. Fans might be surprised to learn that the singer who writes about sexual exploration in I Kissed a Girl grew up in a very conservative family. Both of her parents are pastors, and they refused to let her listen to any rock or popular music. The only things I was allowed to listen to were the Sister Act 1 and 2 soundtracks, Perry told Entertainment Weekly. She and her 2 siblings were also not permitted to watch such cable channels as MTV and VH1. Perry started taking singing lessons around the age of 9 and learned to play guitar when she was around 13. At this time, she began rebelling against her strict upbringing by piercing her own nose. She soon became interested in pursuing a career in music. With her mother, Perry made several trips to Nashville to record a gospel album, Katy Hudson, which was released in 2001. It reached literally maybe 100 people, and then the label went bankrupt, Perry explained to Entertainment Weekly. As a teenager, Perry was exposed to other musical influences. One friend introduced her to the music of Queen, which remains one of her favourite groups. I'm very inspired by Freddie Mercury and how flamboyant and theatrical he was, she told fashion magazine WWD. In high school, she strove to be her own person, choosing not to limit herself to one social group. I was a hop-around. I hung out with the rockabilly crew, the guys who were trying to be rappers, the funny kids, she told 17 magazine. Focused on her music, Perry got her GED and moved to Los Angeles to work with producer and songwriter Glenn Ballard, who had collaborated with such artists as Christina Aguilera and Alanis Morissette. She was only 17 years old at the time, and being on her own proved tough. It was 5 years of living in LA with no money, writing bad checks, selling my clothes to make rent, and borrowing money, she told 17. Perry also experienced a string of disappointments before getting her big break. She and Ballard were unable to find a record company willing to take them on, and her 2004 collaboration with music producers turned performers The Matrix was scrapped shortly before the project was to be released. After having 3 record deals fall apart, Perry finally signed with Capitol Records in 2007. Of course, if there is any merit to this conspiracy theory that we are speaking about, that Katy Perry is in fact a grown-up, adult JonBenet Ramsey, it is hard to know how much of Katy Perry's history is accurate. So, who would have benefited from the fake death of a 6-year-old girl? Why would this have to happen for JonBenet to take on the new identity and become a global superstar? The original theory points to the Illuminati and/or the Freemasons. TheGuardian.com has an article by Martha Gill that tells us that the Illuminati is a powerful and savagely guarded organisation that secretly controls the entire modern world, probably while wearing cloaks. It has done this mainly through infiltrating the media and brainwashing everybody. It could be doing it right now. Alternately, it is one of the world's most persistent conspiracy theories. Persistent because, unlike the piffling conspiracy theories on the 1969 moon landings, John F. Kennedy's assassination and 9/11, which limit themselves with regard to space and time, the Illuminati enthusiasts believe that something is up with everything ever, which, as it turns out, is very hard to disprove. The Illuminati has existed since the dawn of time. Its insignia can be seen on the pyramids, its influence was evident around the life of Christ, and their top bananas, such as, for example, the Queen, are in fact ancient lizards dating from an era before man existed, a belief that often comes with some rather unpleasant anti-Semitic underpinnings. Alternately, it was founded in Bavaria on the 1st of May 1776 by a man named Adam Weishaupt, who couldn't afford the Freemason admission fee. His society, the Order of the Illuminati, grew from 5 members to thousands in just a few years, but then, after Karl Theodor became ruler of Bavaria, secret societies were made punishable by death, and therefore the order ended. It wants nothing less than to establish a new world order, over which an authoritarian gang of elites would rule, and under which nation-states would be banished. Alternately, it is part of a fight against fake news, which began in the 1960s. A journalist for Playboy magazine called Robert Anton Wilson, along with a writer called Perry Thornley, who had written a jokey text on the Illuminati, decided that the world was becoming too authoritarian, and one way to shake that up would be to get people to start questioning what they read. Well then, what about the Freemasons? Britannica.com tells us this. Freemasonry, the teachings and practices of the secret fraternal men-only order of free and accepted Masons, is the largest worldwide society. Spread by the advance of the British Empire, Freemasonry remains most popular in the British Isles and in other countries originally within the Empire. Estimates of the worldwide membership of Freemasonry in the early 21st century ranged from about 2 million to more than 6 million. Freemasonry evolved from the guilds of stonemasons and cathedral builders of the Middle Ages. With the decline of cathedral building, some lodges of operative working masons began to accept honorary members to bolster their declining membership. From a few of these lodges developed modern symbolic and speculative Freemasonry, which particularly in the 17th and 18th centuries adopted the rites and trappings of ancient religious orders and chivalric brotherhoods. In 1717, the first Grand Lodge, an association of lodges, was founded in England. Freemasonry has, almost from its inception, encountered considerable opposition from organised religion, especially from the Roman Catholic Church and from various states. Freemasonry is not a Christian institution, though it has often been mistaken for such. Freemasonry contains many of the elements of a religion. Its teachings enjoin morality, charity, and obedience to the law of the land. In most traditions, the applicant for admission is required to be an adult male, and all applicants must also believe in the existence of a supreme being and in the immortality of the soul. In practice, some lodges have been charged with prejudice against Jews, Catholics, and non-whites. Generally, Freemasonry in Latin countries has attracted those who question religious dogma and who oppose the clergy, whereas in Anglo-Saxon countries, the membership is drawn largely from among white Protestants. The modern French tradition, founded in the 19th century and known as co-Freemasonry, admits both men and women. I do plan to go into these two organisations on later episodes. So why would either organisation, real or not, still in operation or not, go to such lengths to fake the death of a 6-year-old American sweetheart? Apparently, to implement her later in life into superstardom under their own terms, so she could be controlled and become fully immersed into stardom to manipulate fans to further the plans and plotting of either organisation. So where does this theory come from? Well, according to VK33's YouTube channel and his video titled JonBenet Ramsey Grew Up to be Katy Perry, it started with another YouTuber whose channel no longer seems to exist. He was called Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson became well known within conspiracy circles for the content he would release on various theories and speculations involving the entertainment industry and more. On December 19th, 2014, Dave Johnson released a video called JonBenet Ramsey is Singer Katy Perry. Parents Give Up the Game. False Witness Death Liars. Dave Johnson had many videos claiming that famous people were actually other famous people, and many of his videos seem to contain many photos of these celebrities overlapping with other photos of those he claimed the celebrities really were. And so his Katy Perry video contained a lot of photos of JonBenet Ramsey's face being overlaid with Katy Perry's face, each photo seemingly lining up perfectly. An interesting side note is that some speculate that Dave Johnson was a government official. He was tasked with releasing content on his channel. This theory came to light when Dave Johnson's channel went from no views to millions of views, followers, subscribers and commenters almost overnight. And the cherry on top of this is the fact that this Katy Perry video was released on the 19th of December 2014. And according to YouTube, Dave Johnson's actual channel was not even created until sometime after that date. A technical error? Who knows? One thing Dave Johnson points to as solid proof that Katy Perry is JonBenet Ramsey is the fact that their eyebrows are the same. He mentions that you are born with your eyebrows and they cannot be changed. VK33 goes on to praise a lot of Dave Johnson's work before submitting his own theories around this conspiracy, stating that the biggest smoking gun of all the evidence he could find was an interview Katy Perry did with The Mail, where she says, quote, "Not that I was one of those stage kids. There was no JonBenet Ramsey inside of me waiting to burst out," end quote. Of course, JonBenet was a natural talent and beauty and finding her way in the pageant scene at the time of her death, but VK33 claims that Katy Perry wouldn't mention JonBenet at all if there wasn't some connection. His video starts with a section of the music video from Katy Perry's Wide Awake, where she says the lyrics "I am born again," pointing to the possibility that JonBenet has taken on the new persona of Katy Perry. VK33 then points to the use of butterflies in this video and points out that they symbolise rebirth and transformation, meaning the death and transformation of JonBenet into Katy Perry. VK33 then goes on to talk about how JonBenet's image was plastered all over every newspaper, magazine and news station for months, with her entire pageant life on display. He claims that this was all done on purpose as the media is controlled by the Illuminati or the Freemasons, and a big part of both organisations is symbolism, ritualism and sacrifice, and that this is what has happened here. JonBenet Ramsey was sacrificed, at least in namesake, so that she could be reborn as Katy Perry and become a superstar of the world to influence the masses. He then goes on to say that the next clue is a tweet that Katy Perry dropped on July 13th, 2009. It reads, "God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her. I'm so happy I could cry. A whole 6 days to sleep with Katy Perry." Most will recognise the first part of this tweet being the lyrics to God Bless America. VK33 then plays a clip of a young JonBenet Ramsey singing God Bless America at a pageant, drawing attention to the outfit JonBenet Ramsey is wearing, a stars and stripes dress and hat, similar to one of the outfits worn at Katy Perry's Super Bowl appearance and another one she wore at the 2020 London Olympics. More outfit mentions from this video include the use of a phoenix, how it symbolises death and rebirth, proof of JonBenet Ramsey dying in order to be reborn as Katy Perry. Notably in her Dark Horse video, Katy Perry is dressed as a phoenix, and she also wears a phoenix outfit in her Super Bowl 49 appearance. VK33 mentions here that 49 is a significant number, because 4 plus 9 equals 13, which is the number associated with the Illuminati. He also notes that the Super Bowl took place in the University of Phoenix Stadium. More proof to this theory, according to VK33, is the parents of JonBenet Ramsey. He claims they never show emotion. They use fake crying and bad acting. He comments saying they are most likely Katy Perry's actual parents. John Ramsey has just shaved his head and now wears glasses. Patsy has put some weight on, and both have had plastic surgery. He also comments on how JonBenet Ramsey's brother looks very similar to Katy Perry's. So how did they hide her? Especially when Katy Perry was born in 1984 and JonBenet Ramsey was born in 1990. This is a 6-year difference, meaning that when JonBenet Ramsey was sacrificed in 96, Katy Perry would have been 12 years old. Well, he claims that that's how they did it. They shot the JonBenet Ramsey pageant footage years in advance, and because Katy Perry is actually 12, they didn't need to worry about hiding JonBenet Ramsey because no one would be looking for a 12-year-old child or drawing comparisons between the 6-year-old and the 12-year-old. The video then comments on how Katy Perry's natural hair was much lighter and fairer when she was younger, much like JonBenet Ramsey's blonde hair. VK33 then shows a video of a young Katy Perry supposedly in the hands of her Illuminati handler. She appears to be around 13 or 14 years old, so not long after JonBenet Ramsey had died. She begins to talk about her parents. She says she misses them and gets tearful. VK33 comments that this could be because she's on tour and misses her parents. Or is it because her parents have changed so much since the transformation took place? He goes on to discuss more similar outfits that the pair have worn, including pink hats, crowns, and notably black and white checkered dresses. He says that the Illuminati are always dropping hints for the masses, and this is how they are dropping hints here, with similar outfits. The black and white checkered pattern is supposedly Freemason symbolism. Not only is it found here, but it was all over JonBenet Ramsey's house and the flooring throughout, and it is referenced in many Katy Perry videos and even in her Super Bowl halftime show. He finishes the video by saying that one final clue is that Katy Perry was born on the 25th and JonBenet Ramsey died on the 25th. He doesn't mention, however, that they are different months, October and December. So what are the thoughts and feelings around this theory? It didn't appear to exist or even be hinted at before Dave Johnson released the video claiming it to be true, only for it to blow up soon after, and for other theorists to jump on board. Is it disrespectful to the tragic events that took place on Christmas 1996 to suggest that JonBenet Ramsey was never brutally murdered in her own home? Let me know your thoughts at cultvaultpodcast@gmail.com or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at cultvaultpod. I am your speaker, Casey, and this has been the Conspiracy Vault.
All around the world, poverty is stealing choices from kids. It's time to give those choices back. Introducing Chosen, World Vision's new invitation to sponsorship. For the first time, kids have the power to choose their own sponsors. Now the choice is theirs. The choice to take hold of their future, and even the choice to step into a life-changing relationship with you. Learn more at worldvision.org/chosen.